this is not a Film Hub ad, though Film Hub would like to send us some money to report on our experience. We're happy to entertain that conversation. Okay, so today we're talking about a few things. The first one, so Gavin left a comment and wanted to know more about our Film Hub and what we're trying there and what our relationship so far is looking like. I'm also going to do my best to be more mindful of actually finishing the words that I start saying, because in watching the recordings back, there's a lot of times I talk like a doctor writes. And it just ends up being like, whoa, in the thing. And people are filling in the blanks.
That's hilarious. I mean, it's funny when you like are, evaluating yourself. Cause I'm like, man, I talk so slowly because I'm trying to finish a sentence and like, I'm formulating it in real time. And so it like takes me forever. I'm like, God, I got to pick up the pace. So we need to meet somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I feel like your cadence is really good. There's just so many times I'm like, and I think I've said the word, but I've just sped through it, but I'm not saying a word. Anyway, so we're going to talk a bit more about Film Hub, right? Like we said, most of our distribution journey, we're in the messy middle of it, right? So we don't necessarily have results yet. Can't wait to share some once we do, kind of thing, but just giving a little bit more, distro data in the distro dump section of the podcast that we'll be recording. So I guess I'm going to kind of, describe it as I see. Correct me where I'm wrong, Tania, or jump in, or, wherever my memory fails me. But basically, it's an aggregator, which, like, as we said, isn't necessarily a new thing. But I think as things become more democratized, then, we see the old system isn't working. They have a newfound purpose. And I also think more aggregators are trying to not just be a last-ditch resting place for projects, and to more earnestly step into this hybrid space where they're not quite a distributor, so they don't have to own your work in every deal, but also at the same time, it's not necessarily just like they're not guaranteeing a license, so they themselves are not the network or the platform or what have you.
Yeah, totally. There seems to be like a really nice sort of, pros and cons, but like they really do have a lot of pros for the filmmaker of like, we are not married to you. Like, like we're not going to give you any big commitment. Like, this is very much like a situationship. Like, as soon as it's not good for one of us, we can like just end it, which is like comforting, right? It's just like, we can try it. And then if it's not working, no harm, no foul, we can leave. And I guess the same for them, right? They're not offering you anything. Yeah. Like it's a really like no strings attached kind of commitment.
Yeah. There is two versions of how you can partner with them, but both of them, I mean, seem fairly reasonable as far as we thought, which was, so like, I think this is pretty standard in general. We're not necessarily disclosing, the deal of a century here, but it's like, there's an 80-20 split kind of thing. And that's essentially for it to work as a platform that will QC and like pass all the checks that the Apples, the, Primes, all of the platforms need to have done anyways, kind of thing, and kind of offers itself as one hub where you can do that, get the QC check, all of that kind of thing. There's a few different versions of them. And so there's that version.
Sorry.
Okay, we're back from those technical difficulties. So, what I was saying was, I'm just saying back from the point that there was two versions of how you can work with Film Hub. So this 80-20 version. And so it's essentially as like a hosting platform kind of thing for the, for existing, like most other things do, right? They get the 20%. That's not true. You also do the QC and that kind of thing, right? And we'll make introductions. And help facilitate certain sales as well. And that becomes an 80-20 split. Anything you want to offer to that side?
Well, yeah. And I think there's like services bundled into that 80-20. And then if you want to go the other way, you can sort of pay for them like almost as a membership, like a la carte of certain things that you want. Right? So if you do want somebody to be more like a active sales agent, you can get that kind of tier level. And you're paying it, but like the split is different, which I'm sure you're getting into right now.
Yeah. So the split, the other version of it is like, a 70-30 split. And so in this instance, you would negotiate an MG, a minimum guarantee with them. And then they own the film outright for 10 years. And they then would they then end up putting stuff up for marketing and P&A, prints and advertising is what that refers to. And that essentially means like the stuff that they'll do to try to market it, to push it even more, kind of thing. But they do then own it for 10 years. And so for us, And the MG, like, I mean, I think the MG that we were offered was between 10 to 15,000. Again, we never got into a hardcore negotiation about it. I
Right.
think that was the
Yeah.
ballpark that was for the kind of movie that Dinner with Friends was. We knew we were very keen in exploring the version of it only if having an MG would have triggered anything else or helped, like, because then they function more as more closer to a traditional distributor kind of thing. And, you know, there are some funds at Telefilm that would help, you know, trigger other things that would help us continue to bring the film out internationally. But we didn't feel it was worth it enough. Like, again, MG has to really make a material difference, it feels like, for kind of what we're trying to do right now in order to give away the film for 10 years.
Yeah,
And
like
because we did have one last thing, we did know we got the marketing fund, so we didn't necessarily need them to put up certain P&A and stuff like that. And sometimes you never know what they're actually putting up for that P&A.
Well, yeah, and exactly. And like, I mean, sure, we'll say this over and over again, but like you and I like that stuff, right? We don't run away from it. We sort of lean into it. So, you know, we do want to, it's not like a huge value add if you're saying you don't ever have to think about the poster or the trailer or any of that stuff. It's like, we're always going to be involved. And like, we kind of do like that stuff. Whatever, you know, allure that has to people, that wasn't us. I will say also the because we had the telefilm and like you said, that unlocked marketing funding, right? It wasn't automatic, but it was pretty close to being automatic, right? Like it does seem that once telefilm is supporting you, they're really going to do all they can do to support you.
Yeah,
And
we just
so
had to have our ducks in a row.
yeah, exactly. And so with that support, then there was also international distribution support that when we started to do the numbers, like really like do the math of like, if that MG and then if that disqualifies this and that, you know, like you're sort of looking at it globally. And yeah, for us, it turned out like it wasn't going to be hugely lucrative to give away that 10% in order to get the MG when we could get it other places through other avenues. So I don't know. I think it's something you have to really just look through the project by project, like what you're faced with. I mean, if we didn't have this sort of relationship with Telefilm, we might have chosen differently.
Yeah, especially if we hadn't gotten the marketing fund too. I think in particular,
sure.
it would have felt differently. I will say also that in my experience so far, everything's are different. A 10-year license for anywhere in that ballpark, of course, different films they might give them a different ballpark, or if it's, I don't know if they do shorts, but it is not bad by any means. Like for usually the MG is less than that. It can be more, but for like 25 years, right? So 10 years, this was the first I had heard 10 years. And so I don't think it's necessarily a bad deal. It's just like if it makes sense for you at the time, but it felt pretty fair as a starting point anyways. Who knows what you can negotiate and who knows how things may change as their business evolves. But those were the two kind of ways that you could go. We went the 80-20 route also because, so we were talking with Gregory over there who had reached out, having heard about Dinner with Friends, and then saw the film and felt like there was a few places that would be interested in licensing the film. And so knowing that, we felt like we had kind of a genuine champion on it. And, you know, we had kind of expressed why we hadn't gone the traditional distribution route and what our expectations and hopes were. And like, you know, knowing nothing is guaranteed, but like, you know, over 2 years, what kinds of licenses we were trying to get and things like that. And he felt like, I mean, yeah, only time will tell, right? But it felt good in terms of at least giving it a shot and seeing what could happen.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought I was going to cut you off.
Oh, sorry. No, I was just agreeing with you. Like, I think that that's very true. So far, so good with them, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like we, everything that they have said in terms of like walking us through the process. And we did ask a lot of questions to make sure that we understood, but also like, you know, again, this is sort of our way of working things out in our head, is like, if this, then that. Like we do that all the time. We're gaming out possibilities, scenarios all the time. So, you know, we had a ton of questions, a ton of emails back and forth. And it was very much like that information's on the website, but they were very, like, Gregory was very like nice to us and like very patient. And everything that they said so far is exactly how it has functioned.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they've been extremely responsive in terms of like, if you upload this stuff, then we take it and it'll be about X number of days. And that's exactly how long it was. So like they are great at communicating what they're about and what they're doing so far. And Yeah. So even yesterday we were asking a question of sort of, can we modify something?
Oh, yeah.
And, immediately we get a response, right? And then again, back and forth emails, but like very, very responsive. So, and the dashboard, like you obviously get your own dashboard and you're uploading things to your file. It's super user friendly. Like there's almost any part of the process that you want to know where things are sitting at, you can see it. And I
Yeah.
think if you then pay for some of those services that they do individually, you can get even more insights into like real metrics from specific streamers. So
Yeah.
like it's pretty good so far. Like I'm very curious obviously when we finally go live, but so
And we
far so
promise
good.
this is not a Film Hub ad. Though Film Hub
No.
would like to send us some money to report on our experience, we're happy to entertain that conversation. But just relaying kind of, as Tania is saying, like, as our experience has been so far. And I
Yeah.
will say, in doing the self-distribution route, so much of it is just in our two hands and the team that we can rally together at, because we don't have the operational capacity to say we, like, even a 4-person team year round we can carry, right? Like we're
Yeah.
trying to make sure we can carry ourselves for the year, let alone additional people. So
Mhm.
we kind of in spurts and in runs, right, can either get some budget or a program will help us be able to get some additional support. So it is really nice. I think so much of the relief is that Gregory and the team are so responsive when we're reaching out to. They are answering all of the, like, it doesn't feel like there's any stupid question. And it is a platform that has kind of simplified some of this stuff as opposed to us trying to figure out each independent platform. And and one of the things, like, I will say this, we'll say this all the time, but do your due diligence in this industry with everything, right? So
100%.
I did like go to Reddit and try to Google it and see what people's reviews were. And it was like very contextually mixed. There were some people who really liked it and had success. Some people in mix, and not that they had harrowing experiences, not from what I read, but just that it was like, well, yeah, they either didn't make as much money or do anything. For the most part, a lot of that depends on so much, like the kind of film you're making. A lot of these films aren't necessarily festival films or this, that, and the third. And does seem to be like a final, I got my rights back, or this other limited license is up.
Mhm.
And so now I'm going to throw it up on Film Hub. But we did do that
Yeah.
research to kind of see, because Gavin also asked about Kinema. And so
Yeah.
Kinema we did consider Kinema, especially since, Mark and Jay Duplass are the kind of kings of the previous version of the path that we're all trying to chart right now. And so we were definitely saw the posts and saw how he was working with them.
Yeah.
But at the time, I didn't fully see Kinema as an aggregator. It seemed like a hybrid between like being an aggregator, but also you could premiere and launch content on it as
Yeah. It
well.
feels like it's trying to be a sort of independent, it's kind of like this kind of digital version, but like an independent kind of full studio. Like I know that they're trying to do relationships with like crowdfunding, right? And like trying to like crowdfund the sort of funding for films, and then also being able to be the place where you can, like, if you're an independent theater, you can just broadcast it straight from Kinema. At least that's my sense. So it's like it kind of holds your DCP, and so like it's become your distributor, but it's also helping on the filmmaking side. Yeah,
Because
it
that's how
feels like
it
it's
came
doing a bit
across
more.
my feed, was that I think it was Mark Duplass was launching a project. He was
Yeah.
EPing or co-EPing on it. And so for us at the
Mhm.
time, we were evaluating as a place where the film could live, but we felt like Kinema was still a new brand to people. Patreon, where we ended up going with, had a little bit more brand familiarity. People were at least already familiar with the idea of like their work will be posted here that I can pay for or help patron in one way or another.
Yeah.
And we felt that, and that's even interesting because Substack is starting to do a lot of the same thing. And a big part of our goal was, yes, get eyeballs on it, but again, to understand our audience and start to harness a like-minded,
Mhm.
audience who is fans of our work, and also, filmmaker. I imagine like Gavin, right, who I think mentioned that they also didn't get Talent to Watch, but kind of forged ahead anyways and are now in posts on their kind of thing.
Oh,
So
that's great.
Patreon gave us a place to kind of aggregate our audience as well, whereas Kinema, that wasn't as obvious then. But like, I think it's
Yeah.
definitely going to be a contender for a bunch of different
Yeah. There's so
distribution
many,
launching.
100%. Like there's a world where in 5 years, like it's sort of like Mubi or even Neon, like I think that they have real ambitions, and like give them some time. I totally could see that becomes the thing,
Yeah.
for sure. So definitely something we're looking at, or like, you know, continuing to watch, or whatever you want to say. But yeah, I mean, I think we're going live soon. Like the licenses are going to start to kick in, which
Oh
was also
yes.
a really great part of FilmHub is they sort of give you dates, right? It's not just like, you know, when things are going to happen. You're not just waiting for stuff to happen. And so we are a few weeks out from things being available on the platform now. And
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see how it goes. We'll be able to track it very, very closely, almost like it'll
So
be
the
one of those
sequence
refresh.
of it goes that you do, like, this is kind of seems to be like a kind of standard sequence once you're
Yeah.
in this world, which is that even when you're trying to get a streaming license or it's going to go on AVOD, you always start with TVOD first, which was interesting. I always thought I didn't understand that was like kind of a standard first lever that you always pull. Often when I saw like indie features go on Apple or iTunes first, it just felt like where it didn't get picked up yet, so we're gonna live here kind of thing. But that is, from our experience so far, like very much like a standardized, like it'll
Yeah.
always go to TVOD, which is transactional VOD. So where you can rent it or buy it for a significant price. Then what usually happens between TVOD, once you have your TVOD, they try to pitch it for a license, which is a lump sum fee for them to be able to, you know, take the project and run it for however many times. I think it's negotiated across 2 or 3 years. I think from what 2 years seems to be the pretty common. And these licenses can be, so you have, this is called SVOD, which is either subscription video on demand, streaming video on demand. I can't remember which one, but essentially refers to, it refers to like the
Streamers.
Netflixes, the Hulus, and that kind of stuff, but also
Yeah.
includes network platforms. So like BT, Stars, anywhere on a network that would license films. I haven't had cable in so long, but when I
Me
was growing up,
neither.
TBS and Peachtree was notorious for like being the
Yes.
kind of weekend movie recycle where you could even discover the odd movie
I've
or two.
recovered from so many hangovers watching Peachtree
Yeah.
all day. Like,
Yeah.
for sure.
That was like back in the day when like that was the first streaming, because they would just
Yes.
bundle old catalogs and like play a 4 or 6 episode block.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's always the next step. And then the final step is AVOD, which is advertising video on demand. And so you never want to do, and like AVOD is the final, from how it's been explained to us, you don't go AVOD. So AVOD would be your Tubies, your Pluto TV. I think fast channels would technically fall under this,
Yeah.
right? Anywhere where advertising is what's paying for the content, so that you're not necessarily paying a hard cost per watch or what
Yeah.
have you kind of thing. So much closer to the, kind of what we traditionally know in viewership when we're watching cable. And so yeah, from what I said, you never go AVOD before you go SVOD. I think it just kind of dilutes the value of it, right? The whole thing is that it becomes, and we feel that even in our viewing in what's available on different streamers too, right? It's like when you go on something like Tubi, I mean, to me, it's one of their pluses is they have this great back catalog, right, of all of these old movies that people have punted for their original content now. But it's not movies, very rarely, unless it's a Tubi original, is it movies that came out in the last 2 years kind of thing.
Very true. Very true. And I think, you know, like obviously lots of us have paid subscriptions that have ads, but I think that that's the other thing is like, if you want to get Netflix, if you want to watch it on a streamer without ads, you have that option, whereas Tubi, you wouldn't. And then, but the thing about Tubi and Fandango and Pluto,
and you don't need accounts for these platforms too with
yes,
AVOD.
exactly.
That's pretty much the other big thing. You can get an account if you want to track your viewing or watch a show, but you don't need one.
Need it. Yeah, it's very, very easy to access. But the thing about those platforms is that they operate very similarly to YouTube, which is you have to get a certain number of streams, a certain number of views to trigger the advertising, right? And then it's based on how much advertising, you know, your particular film is getting. And so it's not just, you know, you put it up on those platforms and start generating income. Like it's a slower build, unless of course you get all the streams and all the numbers out of the gate. But it is a bit of a tougher one. I think the thing that we were told, which makes perfect sense, the same as YouTube, is like it's getting over that hill. But once you're there and once you have the numbers, it really is lucrative. And because there's so many people on those platforms, for all the reasons we were just saying, like there's more people on Tubi, there's more people on Pluto than there is on Netflix, right? Like you're just, there's so many eyeballs that hopefully that it'll get there, but it's a bit of a different model. And you just have to, I think, be aware that it's not going to be like a lot of money per viewing right away.
Yes. And so right now, so for Dinner with Friends, what that means is, so our TVOD date, I believe, is the 17th, February 17th. So we'll be able to buy it on Amazon Prime, Apple, I think Fandango, and a few other places on the 17th. And then we have a date right now for when, so Tubi is interested in having it on the platform for when, like, the earliest Tubi would like to license it. And what Gregory's working right now on is seeing who in the SVOD tier would be interested in a license before it goes to Tubi. And so, so we've given a certain time period for us. I mean, there's a version of it where we could punt the Tubi license even further if we wanted to kind of wait and see who else we'd get. But one of the things we are attracted to is that this will help enable us to get through the life cycle of a film a little bit faster than is typical, for the reason of just in terms of like operational capacity. You live with a film for quite a long time sometimes before you start to see real return. And for a lot of films, you're not going to see enough return for how long you end up living and shepherding a project through when you are the producers of it, and like director, producer, writer, producer, as we are in with this film. And so we don't want to delay that. And two, this is a big part of our experimenting and seeing is we have some marketing money. So what this means, the interesting thing with when it does go to AVOD, is we do have some funds to support some kind of digital push or something like that to get eyeballs on it. 100%. Initially, our first push of marketing and stuff like that, right, was in very limited access things. It was very specifically to the review. It was very you had to be in Toronto, or you need to have an account for this. The biggest plus with AVOD is that it completely lowers the barrier to entry for people to take a chance on a film like ours. And in this day and age, when there's so much available on the streamers that people are already paying for that they haven't watched or is nowhere near as good as they feel it should be for the money that they're paying and that kind of thing, lowering the barrier to entry and just making it something people can just like click and watch without having to sign up or whatever could be a huge difference maker in how we find our audience for the movie.
Exactly. So, I mean, we'll see. That was perfectly 20 minutes. That's hilarious. Yeah, I think we'll see. We're very excited to see how it all plays out. But we did our own research. Took a while for us to get there and make that decision, but we feel really good about it.
Yes, so we'll keep you updated on anything else we learn about FilmHub, but that's kind of the FilmHub deep dive that we have available now. So thank you. And yes, tell us more questions and things you want to talk about. We do reply. We'll make a whole video about it if you're interested. So be specific with what you want to know and we'll share.
Okay. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.